Once again, we have to do another one of these videos where we have to tread lightly on this site due to the subject matter that's about to be discussed. Now, this video right here, I told you guys back about, I think, 5 or 6 months ago. Of course, this is a follow-up. I told you that when the information came out on this particular shooter, the actual manifesto, I would actually do a follow-up to it and actually go through detail. However, I've got to alter that to a certain degree because of the nature of the fact that, of course, there are certain people out there who are already getting banned. And of course, there are people out there having content removed for having mentioned exactly what was in that type of, let's just say, that particular document, which of course was really just about 3 pages of notes. But we're going to be discussing that in this video. However, we're not going to be discussing the outright manifesto itself because if you decide to actually bring it up, Google will find a way to remove it. Now, I'm showing you guys a tweet from somebody called Raw Alerts. I don't fully put stock in them, but when the guy who actually leaked or the guy who actually read off portions of this notebook just had his content removed, that right there being Steven Crowder, it definitely makes it much, much harder to talk about. However, there is one particular content creator that was actually able to look at some of this stuff and not get a strike or anything, probably because of the way he worded it, and we'll use some of that. But still, this video right here, for the most part, is to kind of follow up on this issue, talk about the media reaction, and we're going to talk a little bit about what was actually in there, not verbatim, because if you do it verbatim, the content will in fact be removed, and there will be an even bigger video come next year talking about this particular ideology that was discussed for the most part by the shooter and what drove this shooter to do the heinous act that she did. Before we get there, though, let's go ahead and get to the news. I'll come back on the other end, and we'll dive into this a little bit further.
Noon hour. A conservative talk show host claims he's released documents related to the Covenant School shooting here in Nashville. We know Steven Crowder is the host of Louder with Crowder. He released 3 photos of writings in notebooks. Crowder claims they're actual images of the shooter's writings. Metro Police say they are aware of the photos. They're receiving calls about them. We talked with police. Right now, they are not confirming the legitimacy of those photos. Now, our chief investigative reporter, always glad to have Jeremy Finley on with us. You've actually been reaching out to people throughout the city all morning. So what have you learned? What are you hearing right now?
So what all of us are doing is we're watching our phones because Metro Police, when they authenticate information, they put it out on Twitter, what used to be known as Twitter.
Right.
And I literally just checked moments ago. There is nothing new about this because there is so much at stake here, right? We've talked so much about the fact that there have been people that have sued to get these writings, and Metro Police has not released those writings, citing those lawsuits, not wanting to release that. We know that they have said, the Chief Drake himself has said, that so much of it doesn't make any sense. And so we have to be absolutely careful with what we are reporting is absolutely authentic. But we do know that a short while ago, I was able to reach out to the attorney who was representing the family of the parents of the school shooter. He writes, I represent Mr. Ron and Mrs. Norma Hale. We have never seen the manifesto at any time. We're not in a position to authenticate these pieces of paper. We have absolutely not released anything, but we certainly did not release this. It's inappropriate for me to make any further comment about it. So we have been reaching out to all of our sources throughout law enforcement. I've reached out to the mayor's office. The mayor's office punted to the police department. So at this point, you know, there's so much at stake here. If police comes out and they do confirm this, then they are essentially releasing this information that is in this manifesto. But we are not reporting that information yet because it isn't authenticated.
Exactly.
So we've got a lot more confirmation that we need to do.
And of course, we've been hearing from the victims' parents saying they absolutely do not want this to be released.
That's
so
right.
We're going to continue to follow this, stay on top of it, and bring you the very latest.
I want to go ahead and say this right now before we go any further. People are getting their accounts banned. People are obviously getting content removed. So if I'm suddenly gone for 7 days, chances are it's because I got in trouble myself, even though I'm not sharing any of the details of this particular notebook or anything. But I want to say this right now. That's exactly what the hell is going on here. And to go on top of this, the national media is not refuting anything that's in there. They're just simply going after the messenger. That's what they're doing. That should be your first real true red flag. You know exactly how true or how not true it is. And I will say this right too. I'm pretty sure there is a lot more to go in here. One of the tweets that I'm going to have rolling across the screen here in a second is one from Matt Walsh, who shared another tweet of somebody in the media confirming that there was a lot more to come. However, the particular individual who did the heinous act that she did was actually, let's just say, going after everybody. Now, before I go any further and get to the very, very next clip, because you guys know how I love to edit this thing up, I want to go ahead and say this right now. I am not a psychologist. I am not a psychiatrist. Okay, I can read a DSM folder. I've taken some psychology classes, but I'm in no way, shape, or form a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But I do know the differences between some separate disorders. And if it is one of these cases where this person really and truly hates everybody, then chances are it's probably antisocial in nature. Now, when people think antisocial, and don't worry, I'll leave some links in the description box right here, so that way you guys can read into it and just say, look, maybe Claymore's off his rockers here, or maybe Claymore's telling the truth. Maybe he's not. Maybe he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Maybe he does. I want you to know right now, antisocial does not mean somebody who does not talk to people out in public. Antisocial, for the most part, is anti-anything the current society that they live in. That's why we diagnose so many criminals with antisocial disorder. Let's go a little bit further. So you guys saw that. There were a lot of people already going out of their way to say that this is not authentic. We can't authenticate this. We can't bring this up. We can't confirm it. And then, of course, a lot of people were already going out of their way to jump on Steven Crowder, because Steven Crowder is the one who decided to basically read off what was in the actual notebook itself. Many people have questioned, and I said this earlier, they've questioned the validity of this, and there are even some people on the conservative side of the aisle who are questioning it, but I think that they're doing it more so in bad faith. We'll get to that here in a second, because obviously Steven Crowder is a guy who is, for the most part, persona non grata by a bunch of people. The Daily Wire thing really kind of damaged his reputation, because the only thing he did, for the most part, and I sided with Crowder during that entire ordeal. Don't think I'm going to come back here and ignore all my previous takes on this. The fact that he leaked the phone call really made him look bad, even though a lot of us already knew what the hell was really and truly going on with the Daily Wire, and most of us were not surprised by the provisions in the contract. I did like 4 separate videos on this. I covered it, but then after that right there, I said, we're going to see exactly what kind of developments occur. And then next thing you know, you find out the guy's going through a divorce. And apparently he talks down to his wife and crap like that, but I'm not going to get too much into that for the purpose of this video. But let's just say that his reputation amongst Con Inc. absolutely got hurt. But we'll get to that here in a second. The thing is this right here. For the most part, everything that was inside this little manifesto, this little notebook or these notes, was pretty much what we initially thought was going on after the shooting. If you guys remember, Hale, I'm just going to refer to it as Hale because of the way YouTube censorship is working right now. We kind of had the impression was given us this person was not mentally there. I mean, this person went to a school, killed a bunch of people, faculty, staff, kids, little kids especially. And the little bits that we do know talk a lot about white privilege, and it's really, and I listened to it yesterday. I'll try to link the Rumble episode in the description box from Crowder, and it's pretty daggone bad. I mean, this is exactly what this type of CRT, white privilege type crap does to a person, or what it can do to a person, eats their brain, eats their soul. When you actually look into what was said, and I will say this right here, this person wrote in their letter, I pray to God that my wrath overtakes my anxiety during this. That tells you right there, this person obviously wanted to do this. This person was obviously seeking out some form of entity. I have no idea what God she was referring to, but still at the same time, it's pretty obvious this person had some serious issues. The manifesto itself and what was being leaked in the manifesto, or what was actually in it. Like I said, I can't really go too much into it because YouTube is finding a way to censor this. Google is finding a way to censor this. And right now you've got the mayor of Nashville who is actually upset that now he wants to arrest the people who leaked it. Clown world. Clown world. We needed this information so that way we could properly analyze what was going on. We'll talk more about that towards the end because we got to get to the conservative commentator section of this right here, who, by the way, went out of their way to actually, let's just say that some of these people went out of their way to kind of discredit the information, say it wasn't real because they felt that it wasn't real because they were a former cop. Don't worry, we'll get to that here in a second. But let's go ahead and play some of this. I had to get some of this from Tim Pool, of course, like always. A little over 2 minutes. Make sure you guys stick around for the full bit because there's a lot here that needs to be discussed.
That an argument can be made. The left has substantially more seditionists who are ready to engage in extremist action. That is not to say anybody wants anything like this to happen. In fact, I think the problem we're facing right now is the FBI is taking this too lightly. They are not doing enough to publicly assure people that they are stopping extremism wherever it may be. I'll get a little personal as I'll break it down, but let's read a little bit more. One of the pages mentioning opening fire, that it was time to die, mentions killing kids and crackers and white privilege, blaming and expressing those crackers with fancy private schools and khakis and sports backpacks and daddy's Mustangs. F you little ishes, also referring to them with homophobic slurs. One interesting component of the story was the checking of security in the parking lot. I don't know if they have this one written out. Let me double check. I thought they did have this written. I guess I don't. One component in the manifesto was saying they were going to check security. Now, a lot of people are upset because gun-free zones have a higher rate of. We got to be careful here. Mass shooters are stopped less in gun-free zones. That's an important thing to point out. Now, we have this tweet from Mary Margaret Olahan, who is senior reporter for Daily Signal, saying, Nashville PD spokeswoman just refused to confirm to me whether this was the legit manifesto. I want to pull up this wiki from the Nashville school shooting and bring up the reactions and the arguments over the writings to give you a description. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, police officers collected what was initially described as a manifesto authored by Hale. David Rausch, the director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, later called the descriptor a mischaracterization, describing the writings as a document detailing Hale's plan and journal-type rantings. The MNPD denied requests for the files by the Tennessean, and State Senator Tom Gardenhire, who argued along with some open government advocates that Tennessee's public records laws required the release of the writings. Metro Nashville Council member Courtney Johnston said the FBI had told her that the documents would not be released because they detailed a blueprint of total destruction and could inspire other shooters. Several Tennessee politicians and public figures, including Elon Musk and Trump Jr., publicly called for the release of the documents. Senator Bill Hagerty said, I think people do deserve to know what took place and what was in the mind of this sick person that committed these heinous murders. House Republican Caucus Chairman Jeremy Fison attributed the lack of legislative release, saying, we cannot possibly address this horrific situation until we know what was in the manifesto. The important thing, and the reason I bring this up, is it was described as a manifesto, but later said to be journal-type rantings, and a description of the plan. What Steven Crowder has released is just that. I will stress right now, the spokesperson for the police is saying they will not confirm this, but I think it's fair to lean towards this is likely the manifesto. That being said, we don't know for sure 100%. I don't know that Crowder has released what their source is, nor do I think they necessarily will. But I believe it is. We try to be careful. Nothing's absolute. I would say I lean very heavily, 90+%. This is likely a legitimate manifesto, as we have already heard time and time again. There are people in law enforcement, people who wanted this released, who had access to it and images of it. It takes only a single individual to anonymously send that to Crowder, and that seems to be the simple solution here. It would be much more conspiratorial that someone fabricated this and then sent it to Crowder. Thus, I will state, it seems to be the case.
Talking about it will get you banned on this platform. Going through it like a fine-tooth comb, talk about it bit by bit. I'll just tell you some of the other stuff that was there, some of the other things that were referenced. For example, little blonde-haired kids was referenced. The C word was used, crackers. I say it like that there because of the algorithm. That was used. What else was actually, yeah. Didn't like the idea that these people were suburban and they had money and these people were successful. Look, I know that the suburbs have actually moved a little bit to the left over the past few years, or actually really the past few cycles. I say it's been moving a little bit more left since about 2004, 2005. If you actually look at the actual demographics itself, probably because people are starting to value security more over freedom. But then again, at the same time, you can't blame people who've made a lot of money who want to live in a certain area. This is the United States of America. You can buy whatever, which also goes to the core of this entire situation about the whole white privilege stuff. You see, we had a discussion a while back about CRT. It was right after the 2020 election. It should have been discussed much further before the 2020 election, but it never really truly did. And a guy by the name of Ibram X. Kennedy made a lot of money off this. He did the whole race grift. There was another person out here on this platform named Carlin Borsenko. You guys may remember her. I did a couple of my earlier videos were in response to her. I never had an issue with her until she began to show us who the hell she really and truly was. And then I actually figured out that for the most part, she was still very, very much a white liberal who was going out of her way to do a bit of a grift off conservatives because she had left the Democratic Party. Don't get me started on that there. That's a whole great big giant can of worms right there on its own. A lot to discuss there with that particular person. But one of the things that she asserted was that critical race theory was not anti-white. It was mostly anti-everybody. However, one with common sense could kind of understand that critical race theory is, for the most part, anti-white, mostly due to the fact that it associates any level of success to be a form of whiteness. That's anti-white. That's anti-whiteism. That's anything that is classified as successful falling under the white realm. That's really what it is. We'll do a bigger video on that in the near future. The biggest reason why I don't go too far into it is because I'm basically operating off of essentially what's there on the surface. I'll be the first one to admit I've not read Ibram X. Kennedy's work, just small bits and pieces. And of course, you've also got people like, what's her name, Robin DiAngelo with the whole white fragility crap, which I really find funny because it typically tends to be that it's not white conservatives who are constantly complaining. It's typically white liberals with minorities who are constantly complaining about the world around them. I know YouTube is going to yellow dollar sign this video already, which don't worry, the next two videos tomorrow that I have coming out on Wednesday probably won't, not really that worried about, but still at the same time, it's the world that we live in right now, and it's obviously becoming much, much harder to get the word out and the actual truth. Which doesn't surprise me that the mayor of Nashville has decided to now officially go after the person who leaked the information, even though they did a full investigation, got a hold of it, put it out there. They're going to go after the leakers and not the actual people that were in charge. Now, I want you guys to pay very close attention to this tweet that I'm putting up here. This is from Matt Walsh, all right? This very kind of contradicts another tweet that I'll be showing you guys at the very, very end. Not from him, but he shared the shooter's father's tweet. They didn't want the information out there. Parents don't want to admit they did a bad job of raising their kid. And I understand that this person was 28 years old. You know, I understand that. I get it. But still at the same time, though, obviously you did not want this information released because you did not want people to see exactly how bad of a job you obviously did as a parent. If you had done your job as a parent, then more than likely this person would not have grown up with the mindset that could have been corrupted by these types of facts. And of course, if you actually read what's actually in that manifesto or actually go through what's actually in those notebooks and the stuff that's yet to come, then you will see that this person obviously had issues outside of the whole T word. Yes, this person right here had some serious issues. Of course, we already know where they're going to go with this. You see, we had a shooting in Maine earlier. They talked about gun control for about a day. Then they found the shooter was white. Here's yet another shooter that's white. We all know what's coming in the next year. Watch, pay very close attention. We'll come back on the other end, discuss it a little bit further. And just kind of already know this is exactly the direction that they're always going to go anytime something like this
viral video
occurs.
Where this woman said banning weapons of war on the street isn't about infringing on you, it's about protecting you. And she said, for all those who need to hear this, you aren't special, you aren't going to be the hero who saves everyone, you literally would not be able to defend yourself. Now, I bring this up because it's factually incorrect, and the video has 5 million views. It went viral just this past week. And I have this community notes, to which I responded, oopsie daisies, to her. Community Notes points out in a 2022 study of mass shooting incidents, the Crime Prevention found that civilians stopped at least 34.4% of active shooter incidents from 2014 to 2021. Excluding gun-free zones, where civilians would not be lawfully armed, the number increased to 51% too. So, to simplify, when they tracked all mass shootings and excluded gun-free zones, civilians stopped 51%. Now, I strongly recommend...
Tim was referencing that little video that girl posted. That showed up in my feed, okay? It got a lot of views. It got a lot of impressions. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. We want to take the guns away. We want to get the guns taken off the street because it protects you. No, it doesn't. It doesn't protect you at all. It actually makes you a sheep. You see, as I've always said before, those who want to commit bad acts are going to commit bad acts. Gun control does not work. We've already seen this in every single large U.S. city. It does not work. Crime rates through the roof, murder rates through the roof, and guess what? Gun crimes through the roof. They've all got very, very, very strict gun policies. I've always been of the mindset that if you allow somebody to be able to arm themselves against a possible would-be attacker, while not always successful, like Tim was talking about with the percentages, chances are that it would deter crime a great amount. I always think about that scene in the movie Death Wish 2, when they brought up Paul Kurz. Yes, I know he was a vigilante, but still, when the mayor got upset and said, you know what, gun crime, street crime was down 50% at night when he was here, stuff like that. I'm pretty sure if you actually allow people to arm themselves, I'm pretty sure at some point in time, the crime eventually would, in fact, go down because people would, in fact, be deterred from attacking somebody. You can go open carry. You can go concealed carry if you want to. But then again, if you go concealed carry, criminals will be more than likely to try, but they will also more likely fail a lot more times than they normally don't. Gun control is not going to work in this situation. I've always said this for a very long time. What you need to do is harden the schools. You're never going to break me on the red flag law issue. I can already hear somebody saying, well, if and this is very, very weird too, because in the notebook, this person said that they could have been caught several times in the summer of 2021, which means this person was in fact on the watch list at the time. This person was in fact being looked into. So, like I said, you can hear somebody scream and holler about red flag laws all you want, but at the end of the day, the proper response here would be to harden the schools themselves. It ain't got to be a teacher who carries. It can be people that you hire. It can be faculty members that patrol the hallway, that walk through. It can be that right there. Either way, if you have people who are armed at the school, it will deter the shooter in the future. Here's where I'm going to end the video at. Now, ideology, where we'll end the video on the stuff that I've seen out of conservative influencers. Ideology is going to be a bigger topic for another day. The reason why is because we're going to be getting more of this in 2024, and there needs to be an actual explanation, but it also needs to be a very deep, detailed explanation. The few video essays that I have, for the most part, tried to do on this channel, they have not been the best in the world, mostly because I don't really do them in essay format. I'm reading the article, I'm reading the study, I'm doing it with a screen record and then putting it to a video and letting you guys see it. We're not going to be doing it that way. We're going to be doing it in much more professional, much better fashion. But that then leads me to professionalism. Of course, that where there being professionalism on the side of the aisle that is supposed to be on Stephen's side here. I understand Steven Crowder has got kind of a bad reputation, seeing how it is that he, the stuff with his ex-wife, of course. And then you had Pearl Davis, of all people, come out and basically side with him. But then in the process, while she got a lot of the stuff correct, she then turned right back around during that and actually doxed his kids and even doxed his housekeeper. Not the brightest of things to do. Don't worry, there'll be a piece out on her in the near future because obviously society is looking at dating and relationships. And some of these people, while they think they're doing good, may actually be exacerbating the problem worse. Don't worry, we'll do that video in the future as well. So what about these people that I'm talking about? Well, Jeremy Boring, his tweet that he initially sent out, basically said that Steven Crowder is pretty much a scumbag, yada, 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 yada. But then he ends by saying, but he did a good job here. Here's an idea. I understand that you have a problem with Steven. I get that, okay? And there are a lot of people in my life that I do not like and prefer not to see again ever in my lifetime. I feel you on that one, Jeremy. I wouldn't want to be recorded either. But here's an idea. How about this right here? Me and Steven have got our issues. We've had our issues for a while. We all know this thing did not work out, but I got to give Steven mad credit here. I know somebody's going to say it doesn't sound too much different than the previous, but it's definitely a lot more professional. All right, then you got somebody like the officer Brandon Tatum, who I would play his video here, but it's just too daggone long because it didn't make any sense to me. The officer Brandon Tatum in his video, which I'll link in the description box, he actually went out of his way to defend the cops and go after Steven and his take. I wonder how much longer his grip is going to last. I'm just saying that you always side with the cops in this situation. I understand you're a former cop, but still at the same time though, and I understand maybe the cops are not at fault, but still. We needed that manifesto, dude. We needed to find out what the hell was going on. Because a lot of people are looking at one another right now with a complete total lack of mistrust because we don't have the information. I get legality. I understand that some things are going to be protected. But this was 6-7 months that this thing was held. But because you don't like the guy who delivered the message, we got to hear your tireless rants. We got to hear, well, I don't trust the guy. I think he's a big old piece of crap. Oh, yeah. The cops were definitely right for holding on to this. I don't think it's real. Guys, really? Does that not, we need this information. Why is it that people, even those who don't like Crowder, can come out here and agree that he did a good job on this, but yet the officer Brandon Tatum, for whatever reason, can't come to the assessment that this manifesto needed to be released and we needed the information? It's another purity test. But of course, we're getting this right from somebody who was never really and truly, on the right side to begin with. That with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. It's going to be the only video that comes out today. Make sure you guys please do that. Please leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.